set. I don't know what just happened. Um,
We're live now, so.
Yeah, too bad. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Orlando Ross. I am a representative for Congresswoman Yvette Clarke's office, and unfortunately, she could not be with us tonight. But we will have an exciting time regarding virtual tax clinic for our small business and gig workers. Due to the scheduling conflict, as I said before, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke will not be able to join us tonight. But however, we'll have an array of top-notch financial experts to speak to you regarding tax compliance for gig workers and small businesses. As we enter the 2025 tax season, it is essential to stay informed about tax planning and compliance. Whether you're an Uber driver, a personal trainer, or a small business owner, today we are here to empower you with the knowledge and tools needed to navigate the complex tax landscape. Our event caters to gig workers, small businesses, in ensuring that everyone has access to relevant information. The gig economy has grown significantly with the new IRS reporting requirements affecting many freelancers. For instance, the threshold for receiving a 1099K form is dropping to $2,500 in 2025. Our seminar will cover hands-on sessions or expense tracking and tax planning, as well as business structures and their tax implications. Our team presenters, supported by IRS, will guide you through these topics. They'll provide insights into tax benefits, filing requirements, and security measures. Let's appreciate the importance of proactive tax planning. Understanding your obligation and opportunities allows you to make informed decisions that benefit your business and finances. So with that being said, we're going to give the floor over to Andrew Flam. He is the regional director. He's going to grace us from Manhattan, Brooklyn, Pace University, SBDC. I'm going to give you a little breakdown of who he is. Mr. Andrew Flam is the regional director of Pace University, Small Business Development Center, where he oversees the strategic planning, marketing, and operations to support small business. The PACE SBDC offers consulting and training services, including access to financing, business planning, and procurement opportunities to help entrepreneurs grow their business. Before joining PACE SBDC, Mr. Flam was the Senior Director of Empire State Development, managing small businesses, lending programs, and mentorship initiatives. He holds a Master's of Public Administration from NYU and a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration from Washington University. And he is also an adjunct professor at Pace University Lubin School of Business. Mr. Flam, thank you for coming on. The floor is now yours, and we want to hear what you would like to share with our team.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Orlando. I really, really appreciate the opportunity to join the group today. You have a terrific array of speakers, and I'm really, really pleased to be here. Also wanted to obviously mention we really, really greatly appreciate the Congresswoman's continued support and advocacy on behalf of small businesses here in New York City. So real briefly, just wanted to go through with you all kind of the services that our center provides. As Orlando mentioned, the Pace University Small Business Development Center, or SBDC, provides one-on-one business advisory services, both in person as well as virtually. And all the services are offered at no cost to you. So I wanted to encourage you to connect with one of our business advisors to go through an array of issues. Tonight's focus is on accounting, and you've got some great speakers to be able to go through tonight. and really to kind of think about the business advisors that our team provides, really looking at financial issues, looking at budgeting issues, looking at access to capital issues. These are all so very, very important in terms of helping to build and grow your business here in New York City. Other issue topics that we look at on our one-on-one sessions are marketing and sales strategies, looking at how to build and improve a website, expand your social media presence, look at email marketing efforts, as well as Orlando mentioned, kind of procurement and business planning. So thinking about how to build and grow your business more broadly. Wanted to really just think about kind of how to make sure that we can kind of be on your radar. We have a number of locations from which we offer in-person one-on-one sessions in Brooklyn, including the Grand Army Plaza branch of the Brooklyn Public Library, as well as from the offices of Assemblymember Rodney Spichot Hermelin in Flatbush. Those are among the locations we have in Brooklyn. If those are not convenient, or if you have other locations where you'd like to operate from, certainly reach out to us and we can arrange that. And we also, as I said, do sessions virtually. I'm going to stick a link in the chat in a moment about how to be able to connect with us, as well as my contact information. So if you're looking to go through after this session, financial issues related to your small business, we'd be very, very happy to work with you. And again, all of our sessions and work that we do is offered at no cost. So Orlando and your colleagues at the Congresswoman's office, I really, really appreciate the opportunity. I know you've got a big agenda tonight, so I wanted to keep my remarks brief. But again, I'll stick that link in the chat and my contact info as well, and look forward to continuing to work with you and your colleagues to be able to support Brooklyn-based small businesses. So thanks again for the time.
Pleasure. Thank you for gracing the stage. We will definitely be connecting with you with more resources for Brooklyn, and we appreciate you taking the time out to be with us tonight. So now we're going to turn our eyes towards Ms. Brenda Stewart-Luke, Senior Stakeholder Liaison of IRS. Ms. Luke is the veteran of the IRS with 46 years of experience, having worked in various departments, including human resource management, criminal investigation, and taxpayer assistance. Currently, she serves as the Senior Stakeholder Liaison Tax Specialist in IRS Communication Liaison, where she fosters partnerships to disseminate IRS outreach messages to diverse taxpayer communities. Through her role, Brenda engaged in extensive outreach efforts, collaborating with internal and external partners to share key IRS messages, and has received numerous awards for dedication and community service. Ms. Luke, thank you for coming on one more time. You did an amazing job with our seniors, and now the floor is yours for our small business and gig workers. Thank you so much.
Am I muted? Today we're going into talking about the gig economy. I think am I muted? Okay. Yes, we're going to talk about the gig economy. So can we go to the next slide? So as I said, we're going to talk about the gig economy. This information that I'm sharing with you today is really informational. So it's not really intent for any specific tax advice as the statement that's stated here. So please, you still would need to get additional tax advice for your specific situation. Next slide. Now we're going to talk about what IRS has to help you. I mean, because over the past years, we find that the gig economy has really grown. And what IRS has in place for you is the Gig Economy Tax Center. And with this tax center, what's involved in this? We offer services in the gig economy. You must understand that the potential tax issues that may fall on you as you become a gig worker. The gig economy now provides information and guides you through the common tax questions. We have tax professionals that also are able to help you as well, but we have certain facts and answers that you might want to know. So please familiarize yourself with irs.gov and also visit our gig economy tax center. Next slide. One of the issues that we find with gig workers, a lot of times they may not know what their tax obligations are. We try to outline some of these, such as becoming familiar with Form 1040ES, which is the estimated taxes for individuals that actually are self-employed, direct pay, EFTPS, which is our electronic federal tax payment system, and Form W4. So this really is a pay-as-you-go system with the gig workers. And that means that you should have paid the majority of your taxes liability by the time you file your tax returns, or you may incur a penalty. Employees usually satisfy this requirements through paycheck withholdings. As you know, as a W-2 person, you would actually have those withholdings taken out of your check. But as being a gig worker, you are responsible for those taxes. So if you're involved in this gig economy and don't have taxes withheld from your income, you may want to make estimated tax payments. You might ask, when are those due? Well, the estimated tax payments are due on April 15th, June 15th, September 15th, and January 15th. And how you would pay this is by using 1040ES to figure the amount of these payments. The fastest and easiest way and safest and secure way is to make estimated tax payment electronically. And we have various means that you can actually do this. You can do it through direct pay or through the IRS Treasury EFTPS. You may also want to make estimated payments to avoid penalties, because if you owe and you should have made estimated tax payments, you may be asserted a penalty. If the amount of the income tax from your salary, pension, or other income is not enough to cover your taxes, that is again a reason why you would owe. You can also help cover your taxes by filling out and submitting a new Form W4. And also, what we encourage individuals to do is a paycheck checkup, because a lot of times people will say, well, I don't know why I owe. But we encourage people to make sure you, in mid-year or the beginning of the year, do a paycheck checkup. That's how you would determine, based on last year's return and the withholdings that you have, that the proper amount of withholdings have been taken out of your check. Next slide. Also, you want to determine, am I an employee or am I a gig worker? So these are some of the things that we're going to talk about today. What determines that? So employees' portion of the Social Security and Medicare, is that your situation? And basically how you determine if you're an employee is by certain things, such as if you provide services rather than sell or rent assets in the gig economy, you may be an employee who generally must pay the employee portion of the Social Security. However, to decide whether the business you provide services for is actually exercising the type of control that would classify you as an employee, you want to look at certain facts. Well, we want to look at three types of facts: behavior control, financial control, and the type of relationship. Well, you might say, what is behavior control? Well, does the business control or have the right to control what you do? Are they telling you when to come to work? Are they providing training or how to perform your job? Financial control. Does the business you work for control how you are paid, whether expenses are reimbursed, or who provides equipment? And then the type of relationship. Are there written contracts? Does the business you work for provide employee benefits, such as a pension plan, insurance, vacation pay? Well, this will help you determine whether you are an employee or you're a gig worker. So, is your work a key aspect of the business you work for? So, again, this will determine whether you are an employee or you're an independent contractor. Next slide. As an independent contractor, you are responsible for your taxes and certain other finances that you are responsible for. There's no employee mismatching. There's no additional Medicare boxes. And you are responsible for the estimated tax payments, which we talked about earlier. And we have various links that we will put in the chat, or I will forward to Mr. Ross so that you would be included with that. That makes the determination. Now, again, we want to go to the next slide. What will help determine? Because you may say, I don't know. Well, we have various publications that will help you to determine if you're an independent contractor or employee. Now, if you're self-employed, for example, if you're self-employed, you carry on a trade, or you have a business in which you are determining when you're coming to work, you're determining your hours, you're providing yourself or the client with all sorts of equipment. You're buying these things. Now, this is helping you to become an independent contractor because you're controlling your time. No one is telling you what to do. This is your business. So now now you are a gig worker because of the fact that you're controlling your time. And this is all a part of the process to determining what type of return you should file. And with all this being said, if you do not know, you can leave it up to the IRS, and we can make a determination by you filing a form SS8. The SS8 can be filed by you as the employer or the employee. So it is important for you to know, so that way you pay the proper amount of taxes as well as you know what your status is. And we have various publications that talk about that. So it is important for you to know. We have a tax guide for small businesses. Also, there are instances where people might have been held both roles. Some of them, you might be a W-2 employee as well as an independent contractor. So you want to look at all these aspects when you're preparing your tax return. Next slide. We have also depreciation, also with depreciation amortization to report depreciate on tax return. All this is valuable for individuals to know because, again, there's certain taxes that should be paid as by an employer, but there's certain taxes that you're responsible for if you are an employee. Next slide. We have rules for home renters. Okay, again, usually these are gig workers. Rental income and expenses, vacation property, personal use of business property, casualties, disaster. All this makes up what you're going to determine. Am I a gig worker? Am I providing these services? So if this is happening, again, it's helping you to see that you are a gig worker because you're renting it out. That makes a big difference. Next slide. Independent contractor. One of the main issues that can help you keep money in your pocket is keeping good records and adhering to the time frames to actually maintain those records. You want to maintain car expenses. And if you're using your home, business use of your home, how much of your home are you allocated to use that? And also the type of business structure. All that would make a determination, again, on the type of business you should have. And now that you determine you are a gig worker, I would say is so important. I cannot specify enough. It is good to keep good records because the tax preparer will prepare the returns, but ultimately they're preparing your return based on the receipts that you maintain. And you would want to keep also electronic records because several times people actually have kept paper records and things have happened. So I would say make sure you are keeping, uh, you have a separate business account, and you are keeping those receipts and those statements so that you can match them, because as things go on, you may forget. So by keeping a separate bank account, you're keeping those records, and everything will go forward in the event that you're audited. But again, when you sign that tax return, realize it's your business, and you're signing under perjury that it is correct. So please ask questions of the tax preparer of what they're putting down. But thank you so much. And please, if you have any questions, please feel free to go to irs.gov. Thank you so much.
Where you can go for IRS, for gig workers, for any other additional information. Feel free to look at our chat that we will have that information in there. Now, my next person is Miss Arume Hayes, CPA, member of the New York State Society of CPAs. Ms. Hayes is the founder and CEO of Hayes CPA and a board member of the New York State Society of CPAs. Ms. Arume has a CPA, CCMA, MST, is the founder of her organization, and she has been recognized as the 25 most powerful women in accounting for both 2022 and 2023, and named one of the top 50 women in accounting by Ignition of 2023. Ms. Hayes.
So, Mr. Ross, let me just let you know that I have a long bio, so you don't have to read it all.
Oh, no. We need to read this. You did so much. I'm not gonna take too much time. Ms. Hayes is actively involved in professional organizations, serving as a statewide director of the Large for New York State Society of CPA, chair of the AICPA's private companies practice, and she also holds an academic roles as an adjunct lecturer at the College of Staten Island and a graduate advisor at Hunter College, CUNY, where she is a mentor for accounting students. Ms. Arume Hayes, thank you so much for gracing our stage, and the floor is now yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Orlando Ross. It is a pleasure to be here today. I applaud this program by Congresswoman Yvette Clarke. This is a wonderful tax clinic for everybody. So it's great to be here. If I can get my slides to come up, it's good to see you all. So today I am going to be talking about navigating multiple income streams and deducting your business expenses. And then also talk about, so let's go on to the next slide, please. This is a little bit about my bio. I'm not going to go over that again because Mr. Ross already did it. So like I said, talking about estimated expenses, quarterly tax payments, and then those are my social media handles. If anybody wants to follow me on social media, please do that. Let's go on to the next slide, please. So what do you need to do to understand your multiple income? What are multiple income stream? And I see there's a typo on there, pardon that. So your multiple income streams, it's really important for you to understand where your income is coming from. What are the sources of your income? The traditional, most common source of income is W-2 income. A lot of us have been employees, are still employees. So that is your usually the main source of income. As a self-employed person, then you will pay self-employed taxes. That's another stream of income. You're going to be Miss Brenda Stewart. She was talking about the gig economy. So you are going to be expected to pay self-employment taxes, whether you're driving an Uber, you're delivering meals, you have an Airbnb, whatever it is, you're going to be expected to pay taxes, right? So you can see on the screen, these are some of the other income sources. Investment income. If you have a portfolio right now, a lot of people are investing in crypto or some of the other virtual currency. If you're making money on that platform, on whatever platform you're using, you're going to pay taxes on it. If you have a skill that you're really good at and you just open up a business, a side gig, it's really important for you to you're going to pay tax on it. So it's important for you to know where are your different streams of income, because a lot of my clients, sometimes they get surprised when it's tax time and all of a sudden they owe money, and it's like, where you had 10 different sources of income or 5 sources of income. So be aware of that. Let's go on to the next slide, please. So you want to track where your income, what is a good tool for you to track the source of your income? I'm going to put some links in the chat, right? So you can use QuickBooks, an accounting software. A lot of times when most gig economy, when most people start with a gig business, they're keeping track of their income and expenses manually using Excel, keeping track of it that way. Once it starts to become a regular thing, if you're making a transition, and even I think it's a good practice, even if you're a gig person, for you to use one of this software. Some of them are actually free, like Wave, W-A-V-E. I'll put that in the chat. Like I said, Zero is another one that's very inexpensive. You can use all of this platform. You can go to all of this platform and you're going to connect your bank account, your credit card account. Miss Brenda Stewart spoke about the fact that you should have a dedicated business bank account. Don't combine different things. FreshBook is another one that you can utilize, right? So you're going to, as a W-2 person, you're going to get your, as an employee, you get your W-2, you used to report your taxes. And as a self-employed person, you get 1099. You report your income on a Schedule C. If you are in renting, you have a rental business, or you're renting it's an investment opportunity, you will prepare your taxes on a Schedule E. Let's go on to the next slide, please. Okay, so what about your deductions? How can you maximize your deductions? So one thing I always tell folks, they always ask me, what can I deduct? How can I deduct? You can deduct anything on your taxes that is ordinary and necessary to your business, right? So examples are your office supplies, your marketing, your software, your home deduction, travel. If you're traveling to go meet a client, that's also deductible. Now, if I have a client in Miami and I happen to decide that I want to go in a private jet, and I go and rent a private jet, is that really necessary for my business to go and meet up with my client? I can meet up with my client, but I can fly coach, right? So the IRS, they're going to disallow that private jets that I rented, right? That private airplane. So health insurance, that's another thing. A lot of self-employed people don't have health insurance. That's also a deductible expense. As an employee, you don't get to deduct your health insurance, but as a self-employed person, you can deduct it. Let's go on to the next slide, please. So again, we spoke about office deduction. So whenever you have a home office, we're all working from home. Some of us are working virtually or hybrid. You can deduct a portion of your home expense as a necessary expense for your business. You need to have a dedicated space. You cannot set up in your dining room and use a portion of your dining room, and then you use it for 2 hours for business, and then in the evening the family gathers around and you guys have dinner at your dining room table. That is not going to be regarded. Yes, the links are free. The links are free, and the Wave apps is free. Actually, Zero is not free, but Wave's apps is free. I did not put QuickBooks on there because QuickBooks is a paid service, but Waves is free. So there is an easy way to calculate the home office deduction. There's an easy calculation. It's called the simplified method. So you can take advantage of that. Don't skip it. You need to know, sometimes bring these things up. Let your tax preparer know that you are working from home and you have a home deduction. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. So, well, again, we spoke about the previous session. We spoke about quarterly estimated taxes. Who needs to do this? If you are self-employed, you are, guess what? You are your employer and you are your employee. So you are required as a freelancer, as a contractor, as a business owner. You do not have an employer that is withholding taxes out of your paycheck. You're getting income from your clients. You have to withhold you have to remit do a calculation and remit your estimated payments to the government. So it's really significant whether you have business income, investment income, rental income, and those are the due dates that were referenced earlier. April 15th. It's 4 times a year on the 15th. Okay, and it's easy to calculate it as what you owe. Usually, if you have prepared your taxes with a qualified tax preparer and you earned a lot of income and you owe taxes more than $1,000, I'll talk about that a little bit. Your tax preparer can estimate the next year's estimated taxes for you so that you can make those payments and not get a penalty. You can also, there are also free resources online where you can estimate your estimated taxes. Let's go on to the next slide. So talking about estimated taxes, right? So there is something, if you do not pay enough into the system, the IRS will make you pay penalty. So we live in a pay-as-you-go system, right? So if you remember, as an employee, you always get taxes out of your paycheck. So now that you are self-employed, the IRS wants you to also make payments into the system so that you're paying into your future you're making payments for your Social Security. So there is a safe harbor rule. That's a technical jargon, accounting jargon. But pretty much what you want to do is pay at least 110% of what the taxes that you owed the previous year. So let's say you owe $1,000, divide that into 4, and you're required to pay $250 to the IRS 4 times a year. Anytime you owe more than $1,000 to the IRS, you will get charged a penalty. So you want to try and avoid those penalties. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide. All right, so what are the tax planning tools? So some tax planning tools that you can use. So I told you about, there's a link in there. I think you might get the handouts if you guys reach out to Congresswoman Yvette Clarke's office. They should be able to provide you with a copy of my handout. There's a link to a 1-hour seminar, a webinar that I did with SBDC. You can take a look at that. But I referenced the accounting softwares that I mentioned earlier. You can use the IRS withholding calculator to estimate your withholding. And guess what? It is always important for you to work with a professional. So, of course, as a member of the New York CPAs, I will recommend that you work with a CPA. But even if you do not work with a CPA, you should work with a professional, enrolled agent, accountants, or things like that. Sometimes when we're starting off, we try and do these numbers, do our tax preps ourselves. If you have the knowledge and you have a little bit of accounting information, you feel comfortable, you can do that. But I highly recommend working with a professional. And you have my next slide. I think that's the final slide. You have a little bit more about my social media platforms. So reach out to me. It's been a pleasure talking to you all, and hope to connect next time. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Orlando Bloom.
Hi, Orlando. It's me, Debbie. You're muted right now, so no one heard anything you just said.
Thank you. A little technical difficulty. Thank you so much, Miss Hayes, for coming on. That's what I wanted to communicate. And I wanted to let you know we have a new person coming on for our stage. The person is Professor Sharon Yvonne James from Medgar Evers College. Dr. Sharon James is a distinguished educator, business consultant, and entrepreneur with over 25 years of teaching experience, specializing in accounting. She emphasizes that accounting should be considered as a part of a broader business system. Dr. James holds multiple degrees, including BS in accounting and business administration, and an MBA, and an MS in accounting and Doctor of Management. Beyond academia, she is involved in community economic development, co-founding the Redemption Community Business Circle of Hope to support underrepresented entrepreneurs and working with a Brooklyn-based consulting firm. The floor is now yours, Dr. James. You have to unmute because I see that you're muted. There you go. And we welcome you to the floor. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Orlando. I'm very, very happy to be here this evening. As my other presenters said, this is such a wonderful opportunity for us to be able to share information with the broader community. This is tax season, and so many people get worried and scared, and when it's tax time, right? But you're scared if you don't know, and that is the reason why I'm so happy that we're sharing information this evening, so you can be more informed as to what you need to do and how you can actually manage yourselves, manage your businesses, manage your own self, especially when it comes to taxes. Okay. So this evening I'm going to share with my fellow presenters. I'm glad that Sister Brenda and Sister Rumi, I think. I hope I didn't mess up your name. They actually helped me with my job. So a lot of what they said, I'm not going to repeat, but I'm just going to add to what they said. And some of what they left out, I'm just going to tap into that as well. So again, I want to thank you, Orlando. Thanks for the opportunity. And the whole team from Representative Yvette Clarke's, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke's office. So next slide, please. So we normally have people say, well, I have a gig, I have a gig to go to, so I won't be able to attend to attend to your invitation because I have a gig. What does that mean? Well, I have either a project working on, as Brenda said earlier, when I have a project working on, or I have a short job to take care of. Gigs actually are not permanent full-time jobs, but they are projects that people work on. It's done several ways, and I'm glad that Urume just mentioned that it's so important for us to have a professional working with, because so many times we think we understand, we think we know, and that's where we get ourselves into trouble. So for those working in the gig economy, or those who work by gigs, or those, what are the implications? There are several implications for doing this, but one of the main ones is taxes. Next slide, please. As a self-employed person, I'm glad I'm not going to quote you all that Aruma just went through. She did such a nice job with that. But gig workers often are self-employed. Okay, they're usually independent contractors or usually sole proprietors. But they're self-employed, and so you have self-employed taxes to report. Gig workers must handle their own taxes, as you heard before, including self-employment. That covers Social Security and Medicare. You want to be able to pay into the system, as Aruma just mentioned. So down the road, at least you'll have that benefit. She also mentioned that quarterly payments, workers may need to make estimated tax payments throughout the year. She gave a good rundown on that as well. But the tax filings can be complex. You need to be able to manage your expenses, your deductions, and the income, usually from multiple sources. And that can be complicated as well. Next slide. In New York, because we're in New York, so we're talking about New York, we're in Brooklyn. In New York, the gig economy workers are usually freelancers, independent contractors, and sole proprietors. They are not subject to the state corporation tax. Instead, their tax obligations depend on their business structure and income. So we take a look into that. Next slide, please. So as a sole proprietor, so who is a sole proprietor? Someone who is doing business. The business is not registered. You might be doing the business in your name, or it might be you give your business a fancy name that is doing business as, but your business is not registered, and you would have to file your tax. Report your income on a Schedule C. The next presenter is going to talk a little bit about that as well. Some of the gig workers, they have their own LLC. Well, if you're a single member, you can be classified. If you're the only person owning that LLC, you can be classified as a single member. The income is reported for the sole proprietor. Could you go back a bit, please? Sorry. For the sole proprietor and the single member, your income needs to be reported on the individual's personal income tax return, so on your 1040. Thanks. Next slide. Thank you. Now, the multi-member LLC, meaning more than one of you own the LLC, and that for partnerships as well, the treatment is a little bit different. Treated as partnerships, income passes through to the members or partners who report it on their personal income tax returns as well. So they are not subject to that as well. Next slide. I hope we can see this one a little better. Now, it's so important, as Arome just said earlier on, it's so important for us to understand how to determine the franchise tax that we may owe. So the first question you ask, what is my business structure? Am I a sole proprietor? Well, if I'm a sole proprietor, then no franchise tax is due. Okay, no business franchise tax is due. I'm on the LLC or corporation, then you proceed to the next step. And the next step is to ask yourself question 2. Determine the state requirements. Franchise tax laws, they vary by state. Each state is different, so you need to check with your state's Department of Revenue to know how, what the requirements are. The next step is to know the calculation basis. What does that mean? Well, is it a flat rate? Is it based on a net worth or gross receipts? The next step might be, do I have to report annually, or do I have to file annually? Now, some states require an annual report at a flat fee, and that is separate from the franchise fee. So you need to know. And then you calculate and you file. Could you go to the next slide, please? Okay, next one. Oh, before I move to the next one, although there are no fees are required for the sole proprietors, generally the single members must file this form from IT 204. If they have income, the gain or loss, or deductions from New York State, sources. You have revenue from New York, income from New York State, you'll need to file this form as well. Next slide. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all of that, but a good idea is to check with the New York State Department of Revenue, the Department of Finance, to see what may be required of you. And a lot of the small businesses, community small businesses, fall in this first category. Or you make no more than $100,000, so you're required to pay $25 a year as your for the franchise fee. Next slide. Okay, next slide, please. We went through that before. Okay, next slide. We're going to be talking quickly about the sales tax. So Arome mentioned about the sales tax a minute ago. Next slide, please. Okay, so you need to determine some things you need to be aware of. You need to determine if sales tax applies to the services you offer or the products that you sell. You need to determine what you sell. Am I selling a tangible product, physical product, services, or am I doing online sales? All of this will determine if sales tax applies. The next thing you do is to register for the sales tax permit. And how do you do that? You need to find out, well, do I need to register? Who needs to register? And how to register? And there is a website there. I hope you can see it. It's not hard to pick up. You can't copy it from here, but you can see it and enter that in your web address to get some information on if you are required to register as to collect sales tax or as a sales tax vendor. Then when you do that, then you collect the sales tax. You determine the sales tax rate, and there are some tools that you will get access to as well that will help you determine the sales tax rate. Next slide, please. After you collect the sales tax, a lot of people think that the sales tax belongs to them. Well, the sales tax doesn't belong to you, the small business. When you collect that sales tax, you need to determine how much sales tax you collect. The sales tax belongs to the state in which you're doing business. So you need to remit the sales tax to the state that you're working with. You need to file that tax. You need to, after you file the tax, and you pay the tax that you collect from your customer. Next slide, please. Now, something else that you need to be aware of, the filing frequency. That again depends on your state and the volume of sales. Is it monthly, quarterly, or annually? Okay, some small businesses only file and pay the sales tax annually because of the small volume of income of sales they have. Some have to do it monthly, some do it quarterly. So you need to figure out, what is required of you. Then I cannot overemphasize that. Aroma said it earlier on. You need to be able to keep accurate records. You never know when the tax authority might ask to see your records because they might need more information, or you might be audited. I hate to say that word, but is it true? You might be audited, so you need to be able to make sure you keep your records. Records of what? Your total sales, your taxable versus non-taxable sales, the amount of tax collected, and the returns filed, and the payments that you made. Mistakes are made sometimes. Sometimes you think you pay and you didn't. If you put it in the mail and it get lost, so it's important that you keep records of all of that. Next slide. Okay. Now, here are some common mistakes to avoid as I wrap up. One, a common mistake that small businesses make is they fail to register. You can face penalties for collecting tax without a permit. You must get permission before you start collecting sales tax. So make sure you register. And then some people make mistakes with the wrong tax rate. Make sure you select the correct tax rate for the area in which you're operating business. Always verify the current rate, especially for local taxes and for online sales. Another mistake to avoid is you're missing your deadlines. If you miss your deadline to file, as Roma said earlier, and I think Brenda mentioned it as well, late payments can result in penalties and interest. Another serious mistake that must be avoided as well. If you sell across state lines, understand that you may have tax obligations. So you need to know what your tax obligations are. Next slide, I think that was my last one. And I want to thank you for allowing me to share. As you notice, this is a lot of information. It can be quite complex. So Orlando, I'm hoping that even outside of the tax season, that we might be able to do a couple more presentations like this, because people have business all throughout the year. So this is a short presentation. It's a lot to compile in the short time. So I'm hoping that with your office might be willing to do a couple of them throughout the year for all small businesses. But I want to thank you for allowing me to participate this evening. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. James. That's the reason why we're doing it virtually and not as an in-person event, because this information will be actually recorded and put on our social media platforms. Especially, this is our first time doing it on LinkedIn, where all the businesses exist. So this will be a great opportunity for our business partners or business community to come in and take a look at some choice information, how to navigate a gig economy, and how to navigate your small business tax preparation purposes events. So what we're going to do now, you're going to stay on because we're going to have Q&A. Don't rush. We got time. We're going off at 8:30. So I don't want anybody rushing, but we want to make sure that everyone gets the information, they're comfortable, and they can always go back and review it when it's on social media.
Great, wonderful.
Thank you. So now the next person that we are bringing to the stage is Ms. Makila Brathwaite, the Executive Director of Grow Brooklyn. Makila Brathwaite is a dedicated community champion, and she's the Executive Director, as I said, of Grow Brooklyn, and leads a passionate team in the pursuit of economic justice and financial empowerment. I like that. Economic justice. That's what I want to hear right now. Okay, for our underserved New Yorkers. With Makila's guidance, Grow Brooklyn has become a beacon of hope, providing essential services like free tax preparation, housing counseling, and estate planning that empowers families to build brighter future. We brought Makila on to talk about how her services her organization offers free services for our small business community. Makila, the stage is yours. Thank you so much.
Hello, folks. It's great to be here this evening. Thank you, Mr. Ross, and thank you to Congresswoman Yvette Clarke and our great community. I'd like to also give a shout out to all of my co-presenters. It was great hearing from you, Ms. Brenda Luke, Ms. Romaine Hayes, Professor James, and of course, Mr. Flam, who spoke at the top of the hour. You guys offered some really great information, and all of that is stuff that I'm not going to repeat because I know there's going to be a Q&A. So let's dive into tackling taxes with Grow Brooklyn. If you could switch to the next slide. Thank you. So Grow Brooklyn is a nonprofit organization that's been around for many years. We're Brooklyn's best kept secret. So basically, we started out in Bushwick as a part of the Bushwick Credit Union, which is now called Brooklyn Cooperative Federal Credit Union. We are an affiliate organization to them. And that organization in 2002, a retired CPA came out and he wanted to do something with his skills. So he started offering free tax prep to folks that were members of the credit union. That year, he did 72 tax returns for free, and everyone appreciated. So they came back the next year, and then so on and so forth. But what we didn't know at that time was that the IRS actually has free programming to help folks who are under a certain income limit to to get their taxes prepared for free and with legitimate tax credits added to their return. No scams, no fillers, or anything like some commercial vendors have been known to do. So it doesn't get folks in trouble, so they have to get audited. So basically, we became a part of the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, and we've been doing that work for several years. Since then, the program opened up a bit. We were hyper local to the Bushwick and Bed-Stuy community for a number of years. And in the past few years and since the pandemic, we've opened up throughout all of Brooklyn. Currently, I'm sitting in Crown Heights, and this is our new headquarters, and we're very proud to be a part of this community and very happy. So basically, Grow Brooklyn offers not only free tax prep to individuals and families, we are also a part of the New York City Free Tax Prep Coalition, which offers the free tax prep for individuals and families, as I said, but also for self-employed folks. So typically we do Schedule Cs at $50,000 in expenses for free. And that's a part of the VITA program, which is by the IRS. But the city has expanded it to work with folks who have 250,000 in expenses. And of course, you're still going to hit those guidelines, the income guidelines, which we can talk about. Other programs that Grow Brooklyn has is our free foreclosure prevention counseling. We also have free estate planning, which offers wills to folks. Of course, there's with the free estate planning, we have to make sure that you don't already have a family member that's receiving our services so that there's no conflict, but that comes out in a conflict check. But we do offer those services, and we also have free financial capability. So basically helping you to budget, plan, and to just get ahead. If you want to talk a bit about what's going on in society and how we can stem the tide, maybe we can all get a coalition together to uh, bust down some policies and get folks to make sure that we are community centric and that we can build our generational wealth. We can still build our generational wealth. So next slide, please. Okay, so as I spoke about the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, so that was founded by the IRS 52 years ago. No, 53 or 4 years ago now. And basically what it was community-minded individuals at the IRS who knew that there were tax credits that folks in the communities were missing. They just knew that these people were not claiming their credits, the earned income tax credit, the child tax credit. So they went out into their own communities and brought resources in so that they would make sure that everyone got to file and got their tax credits. And these were people that weren't necessarily auditors or the tax preparers. These were people who were just ordinary individuals. So that shows that you can take control of your own taxes. You don't necessarily have to have any large degrees or any kind of, specific training. You can do this, and you definitely can get help with us. But I'm not saying that other people can't help you, because they definitely can. But if you have simple tax returns, there's people that can help you with that. And then we also have the self-employment tax prep program, which is funded by New York City Consumer and Worker Protection, and that's the Office of Financial Empowerment. You can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so the SCTP, the purpose again is to help gig workers and self-employed folks who actually have their own business. They also file individual, and they're under the income limit by the city, which is 93,000 for themselves. If you have a family, if you're family members, if you're filing for your family members on your individual taxes, on your personal taxes, you will have 93,000 or less. Or if it's just you and you're a child-free individual, you're at $65,000 or less. And that's the folks who qualify for that. But that's just your income. For expenses, it's up to 250,000, as I had said before. Okay, so next slide, please. All right. So basically, I'm not going to go over all the things that were said before, because you got some really great information. So, so one thing that people find, as was said, if you're your own boss, and it's really great, but sometimes people forget to do key things. And the reason why the city wanted to make sure that you could get some services for free is so that you don't forget some of the things you need to claim. And you got to make sure that you file so that you don't lose your business and you don't lose any of your personal assets. Next slide, please. Oh, so one thing that a lot of times people need to try to figure out, okay, so the IRS does have specific rules to distinguish what's a business and what's a hobby. Like me, for instance, I'm an artist, but I don't sell my work, or I try to sell my work. But so is that a business or is that a hobby when I sell something? So those are things that I need to get information about. And our staff, they will offer you the guidance on that, because they are specially trained not only by the city but also by the IRS in order to let you know. So we offer one-on-one consultations, which will walk you through what your tax obligations are, and that will help you determine whether or not you do actually in fact have a small business that needs to report, or you're self-employed and need to report. Next slide, please. Okay, and also one thing that has been mentioned, and I believe this was Dr. James, she mentioned about good record keeping, and I believe Ms. Stewart Luke also mentioned that. Yes, you have to make sure that you're keeping on top of everything that you do, anything that you spend, anything that you work towards your business. You take somebody to lunch, you're making sure that you're going to take a picture of that receipt. You keep those organized somewhere. The city has offered us some little folders for you to track your expenses, because this is very important. We also have an income and expense tracker that they provided. So that's something that we provide people when they come in. You are responsible for your own records. We're not bookkeeping for folks. That is something that we have to make sure that you are aware. We do help. Oh, 2 minutes. Okay, I will make it quick. And so you will come in and we will be able to walk you through some of the things that you need. But of course, again, everything that goes on your tax return is your responsibility. Even if the tax preparer types it in, it's like these in the VITA program, the self-employed program, we work off of what you tell us first, because that's how the IRS works with us. They expect us to do accurate returns and honest returns. Each person that works with a volunteer income tax or self-employed tax prep by the city is IRS certified and also city certified to do your tax returns. We take tests each year to get our certifications up and make sure that we're able to assist you. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. All right. Okay. So I do have a little bit more time. So what kind of tax returns do we do besides the self-employed Schedule C? We are getting back into doing some corporate S corp, but we are part of a coalition of folks for the self-employed coalition. There are 5 members. There's 5 organizations besides Grow Brooklyn. There is the Center for Family Life, which is in Sunset Park. There's Urban Upbound, which is in Queens. There is Project Hospitality in Staten Island. And there is also NIMIC, which is in the Bronx. So we have the city covered in terms of free tax prep for folks that fall under the income guidelines by both the city and the IRS for this program. And next slide, please. Okay, this was covered already by everyone. So of course, tracking your income, I can't say that enough, and I know they can't say that enough. And when we have the Q&A, I'm sure that's going to come up again. Making sure that you're documenting everything, and that way you have to make sure that you provide proof. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so why might you need some of these documents? Basically, if you're purchasing a home, sometimes they require tax returns, and even if you're paying rent, you know, in some cases you're going to have to provide tax returns when you're trying to rent a new place. We know how things can be. This is how sometimes the landlords or whoever the sellers are of this home that you're purchasing or renting, that's how they verify your income. If you're renting a place for your business, and I can tell you, yes, they want to see that you have income, and not only that you have income, but you are filing regularly and that you have something to sustain, because they would like to see your profit and loss statement as well to make sure that you do have funds. If you're registering your business as an MBE or an MWBE with the city, those are the DEI initiatives that the city offers for folks who are trying to run a business and happen to be people of color or women. And also, if you're trying to expand your business, these are times when you will need to have these tax documents. So you have to make sure that things are current and that they're accurate. Next slide, please. Okay. So yeah, this is something that was also covered, just reporting that loss, income, profit and loss on your Schedule C. So we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, now I'm sure you can't really see this slide, but basically this is telling you where the Grow Brooklyn tax sites are. So currently we have about 23 tax sites that we are providing services this tax season. Not all of these handle self-employed, but it's a network. As you see, we use the subway logos to kind of let you know they're all connected. So you may go to Crown Heights, for instance, which is us, and also we're at the Crown Heights Library in Rugby. And if you go there and say you have some questions that you'd like to ask about tax filing and as self-employment, you know, they'll connect you to the folks in the headquarters office who are doing self-employed, as well as the folks who are in Brownsville that are doing self-employed. So we have a network of folks. We have all these locations in these different neighborhoods that can assist. All of our services, again, are free. However, you must make an appointment. An appointment is always necessary to work with us. Okay, next slide, please. And this is how you can contact us. You can contact us by email, freetaxes@growbrooklyn.org. That's our number, 347-682-5606, and our website, www.growbrooklyn.org. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So now what we're going to do is take some time and we're going to assess all this information and put it into Q&A section for this particular event. I am going to bring on the stage my co-worker, my commandant, Miss Narissa N. She is our new district representative, one of our new district representatives in the office. And Narissa is going to take us through a portion of our Q&A, and then I will come back and close out. Narissa, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Orlando. Thank you, everyone who's joining. I'm going to bring back all the presenters back to the stage so that they can answer some common questions that might be popping up in your heads as this has been going on. I know it's a lot of information to go through at once. Some of these questions are things you might have touched upon, but I really want to drive the point home too. If you guys wouldn't mind, can someone please explain, some of the key tax obligations for self-employed individuals and what really makes it different from employees?
Sure, I can take that. I think actually Miss Brenda Stewart Lake actually spoke about some of the key individuals. So basically, the most basic way that you can make that distinction is as an employee, your employer sets your hours, right? It's like they tell you what to do. They set your responsibilities. That's a basic definition for criteria. There's a long criteria that the IRS has, and Ms. Brenda Stewart, I think she put that. She mentioned the link, but you can go with that. That's the most common sense rule. As a self-employed person, you have control over your schedule. You have a variety of clients. You're working for more than one person. You don't have a single client, right? So there are a lot of factors that you take a look at to make that determination as to whether you are an employee or a self-employed contractor.
And I just want to add that if the person is confused, because a lot of times an employer, in order to save monies and without paying all the other information, they may make that person an independent contractor. Mm-hmm. But if the person is preparing, telling you what time to come to work, what to wear, all of those things, as Romy previously stated, that person is an employee. But a lot of times, I will say, a lot of times employers will, in order to avoid paying the extra taxes, they will make that individual an actual employee. But we can make that determination. And one thing we tell individuals, don't forget that the employer as well as the employee can file an SS-8, and we will make that determination.
That's really good information for people to know. Thank you so much. And also just want to share, what are some common mistakes self-employed individuals make when they file their taxes, and how can they ensure that they're meeting all their tax obligations?
Say that again.
What are some common mistakes that self-employed individuals might make when filing, and how can they ensure that they're meeting everything that they need to meet?
So a basic mistake sometimes is if they try and self-file, they don't know all the tax rules, and there are lots of tax rules. So they might be leaving money on the table. So all of the deductions that they might get. So a common one, which we spoke about, is the home office. So you might not be aware of the fact that you're eligible for a home office deduction. If you have a dedicated space, you can take that deduction. Your transportation to go to the job site, to go visit with a client, those are expenses. So they don't have a grasp of all the ordinary and necessary expenses that they can get. They have an idea of some of the business type of expenses, but those things are all of those expenses, all of your registration. So a new business, you spend time registering the business. Sometimes, and most of the time, you're paying when you're registering a new business, you're paying from personal funds. Keeping track of those expenses is really important. So and then another mistake that they make when they're if they're filing for themselves, transposing numbers, making wrong calculations. That is one of the reasons, that's one of the flags that require somebody else, a live person, a live agent, to take a look at your tax return and select it for further review when you're making such, small mistakes on your tax return. There are lots of other mistakes.
I just wanted to point out, you're right, Aruma, you're right. One of the mistakes that people make is identifying the income that they have. A lot of times if I collect cash, I don't have to report it, or if I collect money From here, I don't have to report it. Not realizing that income from any source, any source, any source, income from any source is taxable, you know, and always have to repeat that. You know, I share with my students all the time. So Professor, what if I, what if I find some money and income from any source is taxable? So what if my friend did something illegal and income from any source is taxable? You know, let the authorities will decide, you know, how it's handled. But income from every source is taxable. That's a mistake you can make, especially when we collect cash. Especially when small businesses collect revenue in cash, they tend not to want to report it because Uncle Sam don't know what I collect, you know, and don't know that there are lots of tools that can be used to help determine people's income, you know. So that's a mistake that we make, and we have to be mindful of that as well.
I just wanted to add also that people should, when they have a business, they would want to do three things. They want to start their business, maintain their business, grow their business, and know when to step out. A lot of times people will blame their accountant when they're audited. But we tell them constantly, this is your business. So you want to choose a preparer that's not just going to get you a big refund or also let you claim certain deductions, but you have to have proof of what they put down. And choosing a preparer that's going to be around all the time, because we have a lot of unscrupulous preparers that show up January 1st and they disappear after April 15th. But in the event that you ordered it in June or July, what happened? You're on your own. So it is important for you to ask that practitioner when your tax return is prepared, you know, what does this mean? Because ultimately you're signing it under perjury saying it is correct.
That's right. And as soon as you sign that return, that's all on you. So you have to make sure that what's on that is correct. Another mistake people make is like mixing their business and personal finances. This was said during the slideshow, but just to reiterate, make sure you have a separate bank account for your business and a separate bank account for your personal. It also works with credit cards too. You know, if you're going to use a credit card for your business, make sure it's a separate card. That way you can track all the expenses. It'll be a little easier for when you're doing your record keeping, because the record keeping also is on you. And you have to take that to heart, that you are responsible for all this. Just like Ms. Luke was saying, you know, you have to understand that you're the person that signed off on everything. So you have to make sure that everything is accurate.
Amazing. You guys are so comprehensive with your answers. You just answered my next few questions. But definitely for sure, it doesn't matter how you get the money, you need to get that reported. So really appreciate you driving that point home. Can you guys just also touch on a little bit more exactly what business expenses can be written off and what cannot? I know, Michaela, you just mentioned, you know, you can't mix the personal and business. Can we retouch upon the home office and other business expenses?
So I'll give you a good one that cannot be written off. So entertainment. There was a time we used to be able to write off entertainment, but there was a change in tax law. And that is one of the reasons why you want to use a CPA or a reputable tax preparer like an enrolled agent or something, someone that's up to date with tax law and they know whatnot. So meals and entertainment, a portion of your meals can be written off. But entertainment is no longer, you can no longer write that off. So for example, you're taking a client out to a game at Yankee Stadium, right? You have to make sure you get separate bills for the meals that you have at Yankee Stadium versus the ticket. The ticket to the game, that's entertainment. That is not a deductible business expense. But the meals, you can deduct 50% of that. So knowing things like that will really help you get your taxes in good shape. Miss Brenda, I see you're coming off mute.
Oh,
did you want to add something? I saw you nod.
Oh, no, I was agreeing with you. No, you finish. I'll add when you finish.
No, that's good. I'll give you the floor.
I was going to just add what you said previously about taking a picture. That is important because what's ordinary and necessary. Because just like Aromi said during her presentation, a lot of times people will say, "Oh, I got to fly," but they're going to take this private jet, or they're going to take somebody out, and then, I mean, this enormous dinner, and we may say, was that necessary? Or even just buying it. So, or either that you went to this event, and how do we know you didn't give it to somebody else to go? But like what she said, taking pictures are proof.
Sure. I just want to point out as well, for if anyone might be listening who is an accounting student, you might know very, very early on, when you're doing principles in accounting, one of the first concepts you learn is what we studied before, is to separate your business activities from your personal activities. Now, what people don't understand is that if the activity cannot be determined to be a business activity, that generally goes as a drawing, against the individual. So most times the transaction might be a business transaction, but if you cannot provide proof of that, very often the accountants would not accept it because you cannot provide proof that it's a business transaction. So it goes as income to you. So we have to be very careful to make sure that we do the proper record. Make sure if it's a business transaction, you have proof. You record it and you have proof that it's a business transaction. If not, if you have a reputable accountant, the accountant may not, if it can be proven, it's going to go as income to you, as well, and not a business expense. So just wanted to point that out as well. That's a very, and it's usually the phrase for that, the term for that is constructive dividend, and that is the phrase. But I just wanted to be as simple as possible. But that is the phrase, the term, constructive dividend. If you can't prove or can't provide proof that it's a business transaction, generally your accountant would classify that as constructive dividend. So it's going to go as income to you.
So to that point, what about things, we have a question in the chat from Octavia S. How do you determine things that are deductible that might walk the line between personal and work? For example, this person is a music teacher and uses Apple Music for classes, but also in her downtime.
I'm going to ask either Arome also to Brenda to handle that, because they did address that earlier on. So I'm going to defer to them so they can address.
I'm going to refer to Arome at this time.
Good question.
I'm happy to jump on that. So when you have an expense that is a joint use expense, you use part of it for personal reasons and part of it for business. So a good example is your cell phone. So if you are using a cell phone, and you do not have, a lot of people don't have a landline now. I don't, for many of you watching, if you are whatever age you're at, you might not even know what a landline is. But if you do not have a dedicated business line, so if you have a Google Voice or something else, if you do not have a dedicated business line, and you have only one mode of communication, your cell phone, and you're utilizing that cell phone to call grandma and call your sister and call your spouse and all of that stuff, and you're also using that one phone for your business, you have to do what we call prorates. You have to figure out, use a good mechanism to find out what is the percentage of time that I spend on business calls on my phone, and what is the percentage that I use for family time, personal time. It could be 60-40, 50-50, 70-30, either way. You have to use a methodology to try and figure that out. Look at your minutes, look at your bill, look at your history, and then figure out, okay, I spend 60% of my time on my phone. I'm speaking with clients or speaking with family, and that's what you prorate. At the end of the year, you get your numbers and you prorate that number and allocate that joint expense between personal and business.
Sure. A common one is the transportation as well, right, Arome?
That is correct.
I'm using my car, for both business and for personal. So the same principle holds as well for that.
Exactly. And with your car, a very good thing that you brought that up. You want to keep your mileage, so keep track of your business mileage if you're doing that, so that you have all of that supporting information to support your business deductions.
Great. So for Octavia's point, do you recommend keeping track of how often the Apple Music is used for classes and prorating it based on that?
Yeah, so you're gonna know how many classes you have for the year, right? What's the downloads, versus how many downloads. What are the things that you use specifically for your class, and what are the purchases for the business? I mean, for personal use.
Thank you so much, Octavia, for your question. We have another question from Donatella. This person wants to know if you, in terms of separating your personal banking from professional banking, do you recommend adding a CPA as a delegate within the banking app?
With all things, there's pros and cons with that. It might seem easier to have someone to help you do the bookkeeping that way, so they can just go in and grab stuff, grab information. But there's also some cons. Of course, the security risks, giving that full access to someone who is not a part of your business, that type of detail, privacy concerns, of course, and then it's kind of, what about misuse? If you're not paying attention to what's going on in your bank account because you figure, oh, my CPA has all that, they can walk off with your money. I mean, we've seen lots of TV shows about this in the past, so let's not make ourselves victims. So you really have to make sure that that person is someone you can trust and that they really have they're invested in your success, so they're not going to walk away with what you have.
That's very true, Michaela. So I'll add to that. So that's why we recommend that you use a reputable CPA. You can go on the New York CPA website, do a search for a CPA, and then regardless of whoever you're utilizing as your accountant, you really should be making sure that you do your due diligence and do a background check. With that, I will say that all of the banking institutions, there are controls, there are limits, admin rights that you can set up for your CPA. So whoever you give delegates a user access to on a bank account platform, you can designate the rights where they can only view transactions, they can only download statements, they can only download transactions, they cannot do anything else. There are some CPAs, if they have a family office business where they pay bills on behalf of their customer, so they've established a relationship with that client, so they know they're trustworthy and they can trust them. So you can set, if you don't know the CPA and you just started working with them, but you don't want to have to go through the trouble of logging into your bank every month and downloading your statements and sending it to your CPA. You just want to streamline the process and have them do that. Yes, you can give them access, but just limit them to that core function. Once you get to know them, maybe in year 2, 3 and everything, and you want to delegate bill paying to them, then you can add on to that function.
Sure. And I just want to mention that technology is making life very easy for us. But besides making life very easy, it can become very complicated, at some point. So I have a client, and one of my, clients that I work with, community, and so she gave me access to her account for her business. But when the transactions I saw, I said that couldn't be business only. When I reached out to her, of course, they merged her personal account with the business account. She wasn't even aware of that. So I had to, help her to understand how to get them to separate the two. So even if technology is making life easy for us, as the business owner, the onus is on you. You still need to know what's happening. You need to understand the apps, how they work, what the implications are. Don't just, what is easy. Don't just give up and say, what is easy, I'm going to use it and I'm going to share it. You need to understand how it works as well. There are a lot of implications using the apps, using all these apps and technology and not knowing the implications for you and for your business as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was just going to add, IRS has partners, and one of the partners we have is New York State Society of CPAs. Most of the on here are my partners as well, or shared partners. And I mentioned CPAs in that they are under Circular 230, which means that if anything happens, they don't want to lose their position because of a person, they're going to make sure they do the right thing. Basically, that's what I'm saying, because flex on their job. And we partner with the schools, and we partner with World Brooklyn, with the Vita sites. They have to take certain tests, and they have to say that they're honorable. But you have a lot of people, I mean, like she says, sometimes there are people that are unscrupulous and things happen. And if it happens with a person, it's going to happen. It may be a pattern. And most of the times you spend so much time to become a CPA that you're not going to just do something to mess up your opportunities forever. So, and again, a person has to realize this is their business. This is their business. They have to take ownership of it. You decide you don't want to be a W-2 employee. Now you want to own your own business. And that's part of stepping up to maintain the books and records and your banking account for that as well.
That is so true, Miss Brenda. We should hire you as a as a PR person for us. It's really true. We go through a lot to get that CPA license. It's a regulated industry, CPA. So as CPA, they're not going to want to do something unscrupulous to lose their license. So we take it the work that we do, that we serve clients. That's why we're called trusted advisors. You can trust your CPA. So I'll end with that. I see that Nerissa, you were going to take the floor.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you guys for your answers. Very in depth, much appreciated. Just wanted to get more information on quarterly estimated tax payments. Why are they important for gig workers, and how can they calculate them?
I'll start. No, go ahead, Romy.
I just finished talking. I would like to share. Go ahead. Let me give you the floor. I don't want to hold all the time now. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to bring it from another point of view. And I did an event recently with Social Security. And first of all, a lot of times the individuals now may not realize that when you are a W-2 employee, Social Security actually goes into the system. But if you are self-employed, you are responsible for making these tax quarterly payments, which goes towards your Social Security. And a lot of individuals don't realize how that works. So it is important. And you are now saying again, I want to be responsible for my own taxes. And this is something that we're obligated to pay our fair share of taxes. So that means that individual that's self-employed is going to make these quarterly payments 4 times a year, as it would be the same if someone's a regular W-2 employee. They're going to make these payments so that it can go further towards their Social Security, their Medicaid, all this. They're taking ownership since now they have stepped up to become self-employed. That's part of the responsibility.
Yeah, it's a grown-up responsibility. Once you are, you're self-employed, you're making money, you have steady income. What I would say is that for most businesses, in your first year, you don't have a track record, so you're not really sure yet of what your income is going to be like. You're not going to get a penalty for not making estimated tax in year 1. But in year 2, you started to make money, and then let's say in year 1, you ended up owing $1,200 in your taxes. You will be required, you're expected to make estimated taxes in year 2 and onward, as long as your business is profitable. Again, this is an investment into your future you. The IRS, they've made it a lot more easier for taxpayers, for citizens to make that contribution. As an employee, like, remember, your taxes are withheld out of your check every paycheck. If you're getting a check every 2 weeks, taxes are being withheld. The IRS is asking you to make the estimated contribution 4 times a year. So you keep track of your expenses, your income, for 3 months. Now, if what happens, let's say in the last quarter, the last 3 months of the year, October, November, December, you end up not getting your gig worker, you end up not making any money. You can, you might not have to make that last estimated payment, because the annual income that you projected at the beginning of the year, it's no longer, it's not feasible, right? So there is some leeway that you can work with, but you really should be paying into the system, making your estimated taxes.
Thank you guys so much. Just finishing out the Q&A, I just want to hear if you guys have last pieces of advice for people filing, whether that be gig workers and small businesses. And if you could just plug your information one more time for them. And I'll bring Orlando back so he can also be here for the close.
Am I back? Okay, we still got a few more questions and then we're going to close out, Narissa. So there was some stuff that came up on one of our questions that I wanted to bring in. And one of them was the business structures and tax implications. I have two questions on that. So one of the questions is, what are the different business structures available to gig workers, such as sole proprietorships, corporations, and what are their tax implications? It's open to everyone on the floor. Everyone don't have to speak at once.
I see Dr. James. Were you trying to unmute? Because I was waiting for, because I saw her reaching out, so I wasn't sure if you were going to unmute.
You could go ahead.
Okay.
You could go ahead.
Go ahead.
So the different business structure. So a sole proprietor is like anyone, right, who opens up shop. So as a kid, if you guys remember, for some of you, as when you were younger, you had a lemonade stand, right? So typically, if you are operating any business activity where you're making money, you have a sole proprietorship. So when you're operating, if you're delivering meals, you have Uber Eats, right? Or you're driving Uber transportation. You're operating a business activity and you're working underneath your social security number. So you're going to pay taxes under your social security number. So that's the most common small business type of structure. And there's no expense required. You don't have to register. You don't have to file any formal papers. You just start your business and you're in business. If you're making pottery at home or you're making paintings and you're selling them, you're in business. So that's the most common structure. If you want to protect yourself against some kind of liability, then you want to start to register your business. You can register an LLC. The LLC protects your, so let's say you have a rental property. You don't want any of your tenants coming to sue you and then coming after your personal assets. So that LLC is going to shelter your personal assets from any potential lawsuit. The taxation of a sole proprietorship and an LLC is actually the same thing. You're still taxed as an individual, even if you have, you're still taxed on the Schedule C rather, even if you have a separate EIN number, that's the employer ID number, you'll still be taxed together with your individual tax return. When we go to the other structures like a partnership or an S corporation, that's called a pass-through entity. I don't want to give an accounting lecture here, but that's usually if you get into business, you two friends, your childhood friends, you have this great idea that you've honed and you decide you want to work together. You as long as two people come together, you have a partnership, and you want to make sure you have your agreement in place and you know what your profit ratio distribution is going to be and things of that nature. That's what the partnership is. An S corporation is not recommended for new businesses because whereas there are tax savings that come with having an S corporation, it's a very expensive structure to maintain. There are tax obligation compliance requirements that you have to file a separate tax return. You have to maybe process payroll. You have to keep minutes. There's just a lot of compliance obligations that as a new business activity, you don't want to burden yourself with. And then, of course, there's a C corporation, which is like the almighty of almighty. A lot of the bigger corporations operate under a C corporation. Anything you want to add to that, Dr. James?
No, that was good. It can get complicated. Sometimes it can get complicated. The easiest thing, as we've been saying for the whole evening, especially as people of color, we have not been trained to seek expert advice. We have not been trained. So we wanted to, I have a nice idea. So we just want to start a business without getting expert advice, and even when you want to engage in business activities. So we are not trained to do that. And I just wanted to, point that out. So get expert advice to know what's best for you, what's beneficial. What should you do, what shouldn't you do. One of my clients, she wanted to recently set up a restaurant, and didn't realize that she already had a structure in place. All she had to do was just do a DBA, but she was going to do something else. And thankfully she came at the right time, so she was able to get the advice that she needed. I'm saying that it's important to seek expert advice. We have not been trained to do that, so we have to retrain ourselves now to do that. You want to get involved in any business activity, seek expert advice before you do that. While you're engaging in business, it depends on the transactions you want to engage in. It depends on the business activity. Seek expert advice before you do that. So a lot of the advice we get now is free, as we have Grow Brooklyn and other agencies. You get free advice. So please seek expert advice before we find ourselves in hot water.
That's good. And I would just add to that, I will say, it's great to get free expert advice. Like you said, expert advice, Dr. James. That means Grow Brooklyn, PACE, SBDC,
Right.
SCORE. That does not mean social media. That does not mean TikTok or Instagram. There's a lot of advice out there. There are lots of folks who are saying crazy things so that they can go viral and have likes and followers and all of this stuff. That stuff can get you in trouble, and you do not want to follow that stuff. So that's all I'll say on that. Get good advice from authorized sources.
I was going to say also a couple things. IRS promotes volunteer compliance. And once you establish the business, we're looking for eventually a return in that business that you're established. So it's important for you to know what your obligation will be for that business. I mean, so because eventually we can prepare a return, and then you would have to say it's not your return. So also we partner, like I said previously, like collaborative events, because I'm a public liaison. However, we partner with the accountants, we partner with the community nonprofits, we partner with the schools to help deliver some of these workshops. And we thank Congresswoman Yvette Clarke for having us today to share this information, because a lot of people have the wrong concept of the IRS. I mean, we want you to succeed as small businesses, but a lot of times people don't know how to start or what to do. We have 9 lessons on irs.gov, and we have also videos. We are on YouTube's on how you can start a business and what we're looking for. So really, we're out there to help you. We promote volunteer compliance. However, there is enforcement also, but we want to educate you as you start your business. And we partner with the SBDCs, SBA. Those are our partners, because we can't deliver to everybody in New York or the various states. We need our partners to help, and we really appreciate the relationships that we do have. Thank you.
Great. I have one last question and we're going to wrap it up. We have done an amazing job trying to gather all the information needed for our small business and gig workers. And this is our final question. If a small business owner uses payroll services like ADP, then the tax requirements quarterly are paid for what? Wait, for what? It just went in. What's going on? So paid for the small business owner, which is what I use for my small business. I'm going to read it again because the screen went up again. If a small business owner uses payroll services like ADP, then the tax requirements quarterly are paid for small business owners, which is what I use for my small business. And I am the only employee. What do you recommend for a small business owner who works from home for payroll? So I believe they're talking about a service that does payroll. ADP, this is what they do on the outside, but maybe you can recommend something other than ADP to help them with their payroll tax.
That's for you, Ms. Hayes.
saw Michaela. I saw her speaking, so I thought she was going. I like to give folks a chance to speak, so I'm holding my breath here. Yes, there are other payroll providers that provide payroll services. So ADP is not the only person shopping in town. Obviously, they're one of the biggest. I don't know if they're the big. They're probably the biggest, yeah. But there is Paychex. Paychex is a good competitor. One that is affordable. A lot of my clients, small clients, are on Gusto, Gusto, Gusto. So that is a very good service. And then there are also other smaller. If you just do a Google search and you can do a comparison, you always want to do your due diligence when you're getting for any service, regardless of what service that you're getting. But I will say that I have a lot of clients. I have clients on some of my clients on Gusto, some of my clients on ADP, a lot of clients on Paychex, and then some smaller payroll providers. They all have their pros and cons, and of course they vary in fees and prices. So you want to choose one that's going to fit your wallet, your business wallet, a lot better.
Okay. Does anyone else want to chime in? Okay.
I just wanted to add, even though you hire these companies, you want to do a check to see if they did it. You want to ask them. Don't just let them think that you just left everything up to them. Because again, ultimately, it's on you. It's your business. So sometimes just giving that call is like a reminder. I remember with taxes, and when I was a manager in the walk-in, and they'll say, well, I gave my accountant the mail to mail my taxes in. I said, well, he says he didn't mail it, because we'll say we didn't get it. So it's the onus is on you. It's your business. So you need to just make that call to say, did you make my payroll tax? Did you do this? Did you make my estimated tax payment? It's just a friendly reminder for them to do it.
And I'll add to that, if you happen to have employees and you're taking payroll taxes, withholding payroll taxes out of your employees' checks, remember that money does not belong to you. You need to make sure you're sending that money to the government. I've seen a lot of small businesses go out of business because they've withheld money from their employees' checks. They don't remit that money to the government, and it'll catch up on you. You cannot take money from your employee and keep it and not follow through with that and submitting it to the government. Whether you're submitting it to New York State or to the IRS, payroll taxes need to be, to Social Security, payroll taxes need to be paid.
Okay, so I think that's enough for this section. I want to give the floor now to everyone to give your last comments. What are the top things that you want to say before we close out? Just give you about 2 minutes, and we're going to start with Grow Brooklyn, then go to Brenda, then if Mr. Andrew Flem is still on, he can bring something, Dr. James, and then Miss Hayes.
Okay, so again, thank you very much. I enjoyed speaking with all these great panelists. You guys, great inspiration. Thank you. And thank you for the invitation. Again, if you're interested in getting a consultation, a one-on-one business consultation from an IRS certified volunteer preparer who works with Grow Brooklyn, then please give us a call at 347-682-5606. Or you can email us at settp@growbrooklyn.org or freetaxes@growbrooklyn.org. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciated that. Thank you so much.
My words are, I thank you so much for the invitation. I thank Congresswoman Yvette Clarke and you, Orlando, for reaching out to us today, and all the panel members. I enjoyed working with everyone. And on behalf of the IRS and as a senior stakeholder liaison, we're constantly looking for partners and opportunities to do public speaking and to partner with you. If you're interested in having an outreach, invite us to speak. I'm out of 290 Broadway, and just wanted to let everyone know that if you're a small business, please keep your receipts. Record keeping is the main problem that we find. So you want to grow and most of all, maintain your business. And we want you to do that. And don't be afraid of the IRS. We're here to help you. Thank you again.
Hi, everybody. I think I'm next. Sorry, I had to go off camera for a bit, but Orlando, thank you and your colleagues so much for pulling this together, and roommate Dr. James, and all the other speakers. You guys provided some really, really insightful guidance in terms of how to be able to effectively kind of manage your business during this upcoming tax season. On behalf of the Pace University Small Business Development Center, again, we're here to support your business in terms of access to finance, kind of one-on-one strategies in terms of thinking about how to most effectively kind of manage funds in your business, and be able to think about how to kind of formally operate and kind of track some of the expenditures and other strategies that the terrific speakers kind of reviewed today. So look forward to working with you. Again, all of our services are offered at no cost, and those one-on-one sessions really can be very, very insightful and helpful. So again, thanks, Orlando, and thanks to the Congresswoman for pulling this together. Really appreciate it.
Ms. Hayes, you're next.
I am next. Okay, great. So thank you very much. A big thank you to Congresswoman Yvette Clarke for this great webinar. I hope you all have enjoyed it. There were lots of germs, a lot of good stuff, jewels given out today. So I want to say on behalf of the New York State Society of CPAs, with CPAs, we're trusted advisors. We're here to serve you. You can reach out for my firm. We do offer complimentary services, about half an hour of complimentary service, and then before we charge a fee. But the one thing I would say, parting thought I would leave with you is, if you have multiple streams of business, keep them separate. You have a babysitting business, keep that separate. You have a lecturing business, you're a musician, you're an actor, you will have whatever your stream of business is. You have 5 streams of businesses or 4 streams of business. Do not mingle them up. You cannot just file one tax return. There are different activities. Keep your income separate and your expenses separate. And I'll leave you with that. Thank you again. Cheers, everyone.
So you could go ahead.
So on behalf of the accounting department at Medgar Evers College, just want to say a big thank you to the office of Congresswoman Yvette Clarke and you, Orlando, for being such a sport, at reaching out and guiding us through this process. I think it's so important. I just want to say that knowledge is power. Information is power, and that's what was provided here this evening. Information, knowledge, so the small businesses can be powerful, right? Too often I hear people say that I don't know. And as we all said, ignorance is no excuse, right? We've got to, as a small business owner, the onus is on you to find the information that you need to have to maintain your business. So there is no excuse. Find the information. You want to do A? Who can help me do A? Find an expert. I want to do B. Before you think of doing B, ask yourself, who can guide me to do B? So, again, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. And for those of you who might be looking, as you notice, we need accountants. We need professionals, so this is an opportunity to invite you to Medgar Evers College. If you were thinking, if you like the information that you heard this evening and you think this is something that you might like to do, you may maybe want to help small businesses, consider becoming an accountant. Consider becoming somebody in the financial field. And Medgar Evers College is a great place for you to be able to get this information. And so I just want to again say thank you, and we're willing to lend whatever support we can. Whenever you have events and you need us, feel free to reach out to the accounting department at Medgar Evers College. Again, thank you.
Thank you. So I want to keep you on, because the reason why I kept you on is because next on April 1st, we're going to do this all over again for nonprofits and faith-based organizations. It will be a Tax Tuesday event from 12 to 1 p.m. Professor Sharon James is going to be speaking from Medgar Evers on maintaining tax-exempt status, unrelated business incomes, knowing where your funding comes from, and proper reporting of donation grants. In addition to that, we have a heavy hitter coming Her name is Kelly S. Matthews. She's the Chief Operating Officer and Senior Vice President of Financial Management Group called the New York Council of Nonprofits. She will be accompanied with CPA Alan Fetterman, who's a well sought after speaker, and they'll be talking about compliance with public support tests, considerations of faith-based organizations, minister housing allowance, and reporting requirements for religious organizations. So I want to thank everyone for coming on board. This was a very informative event, and please stay connected. Our office is at 222 Lenox Road. Congresswoman Yvette Clarke would love for you to come on in if you have any questions or anything with immigration or anything dealing with small business or anything to Social Security. Our office is here to help you. Our number is 718-287-1142. And again, we thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be a part of this event. Thank you.